Good evening. Imagine, if you will, waking up first thing in the morning, looking out your window over your morning cup of coffee, and seeing hundreds of men in the streets with knives and swords and chains. Who do you call? What do you do? Imagine also these very same men who are armed start attacking themselves. Pretty scary. This sort of event is the reality for thousands of people all across the world, from Lebanon to Bangladesh, Pakistan to Greece. On a certain holy day, Shiite Muslims worldwide engage in various acts of self-mutilation. They engage in acts of mud baking and overt displays of mourning and religious demonstrations. On the day of Ashura is when this occurs. Now, the Islamic calendar is a little different than our calendar since it's based off of the lunar calendar. So every single year this day is different. This year, it's on October 11th, the day of Ashura. Now, it's important that we have an understanding of why this is going to happen on October 11th, because the religion of Islam, at 1.6 billion followers worldwide, is the fastest growing religion. Faster than Christianity, faster than Judaism, faster than Hinduism. So it's only a matter of time before these sort of demonstrations are occurring right here in our very own country. They've already reached the Western world in Greece. Thousands of Syrian refugees are given solace here, and with them comes their faiths and their rituals and their demonstrations. So we need to understand what's going on. A little history about the day of Ashura. Back in the year 680, late 7th century, the Islamic religion was still relatively new. There was a rift over the transference of power from their supreme leader to their next one. They were on their second or third supreme leader, the caliph, when the older caliph had been professing throughout his duration as the leader that he would abide by the popular Islamic viewpoints of giving the power for the religion to a descendant of Muhammad. On his deathbed, however, he decided and he proclaimed that instead the new caliph would be his son, Yazid. This was a major problem for the new religion, and this is where we first start to see a rift in the religion, which eventually would become the Sunnis and the Shiites that we currently have. The grandson of the Prophet Muhammad was named Imam Hussein. He was basically the figurehead of the religion at the time, aside from the caliph. A very popular guy. And since he was the grandson of Muhammad, there were many who felt that he should be the new caliph instead of Yazid. Yazid reached out to Imam and tried to garner his support in a very public forum, but Imam Hussein denied it. He thought that Yazid was untrustworthy, that he was an illegitimate caliph, and as such, Imam Hussein and his family decided to seek refuge in Mecca. On the way there, Yazid sent an army after Imam, caught up to him, starved him out for 3 days in the desert, no food, no water, and eventually, after those 3 days, the army came in and slaughtered all the men. The women went to prison in Syria, and that event, that single event, is really what has sparked generations of dismay and disputes and fighting between the Sunnis and the Shiites. Imam Hussein, since he was martyred, is viewed as a holy figure and as someone who should be remembered yearly on the day of his death, the day of Ashura. The day of Ashura occurs on the first month of the first holy month in the Islamic calendar, which is the month of Muharram. This year, October 11th, is the day of Ashura. Now, the Shiites throughout the world, not every Shiite does this, of course, but hundreds of thousands of them do this. They take to the streets with the knives and with the swords and with the chains and the razor blades, and they practice self-mutilation in a practice called tatbir. Now, this is intended to remind themselves of the pain that Imam Hussein and his family felt on the day of their slaughter. Additionally, what goes on this very same day is a practice in southern Iran, which is localized right now, but it is a practice of mud rubbing, where before dawn, men and women wake up and they cover themselves with mud and then they dance around bonfires all day until it hardens onto them. They view Imam Hussein's holiness as being in the earth, and this is a practice to remind themselves and to get closer to him. Now, these practices from our standpoint here in America seem somewhat strange, but to these people who are actually engaging in them, this is their life. On October 11th, this is going to happen. It is only a matter of time until these practices are happening through our windows. We have to understand why. Now, the real problem is going to be, where do we draw the line? Where does law enforcement draw the line in trying to keep these events, once they reach America, under control? Because on one side, you have those who believe this is a demonstration of religious freedom. This is just a religious practice. On the other side, clearly, the self-harm and blood everywhere, that's not good for public health. So that's going to be very interesting, which is going to reach us in the near future. Now, those in leadership positions throughout the Islamic religion are, again, at odds with one another over this practice. There are some, the traditional clerics, who feel as though this should be allowed. You know, they view this as a demonstration of faith. The newer clerics feel like these efforts could be better served in other ways, such as donating blood, or by fasting, or something other than hurting yourself, since that's considered taboo in their religion also. What are you going to do when you see this occurring in your backyard? At least now you have a basic understanding of it, but what are you going to do?